YouTube, warbles on a lot here. Just getting ready for the outsiders. 23rd of August. Cumulo basalt acacia eucalypti, aka we're in a fog. And for those of you who've been following the story, Kim is still with us, still showing up every morning for breakfast. She's getting slightly more mobile too, so maybe she's getting better. And also, there is Dizzy's foot, which is getting better as well. Yes, we will have a quick feeding. Everybody gets a biscuit. Yes, you can have two because you're old and sick. You can have a bicky. You can have a bicky. There we go. Yes, you can have a bicky. It's a girl. We have a look at your leg from this side. See, it is definitely, genuinely healing over. We all have to stay out while I record the radio.
Time now for Outsiders. I'm Barry Cassidy and you're not. Yes, indeedy do. Your guest this morning, Sabine Wolfe. Now, Sabine, last time we had you on, we had all sorts of confusion about what it is that you do.
Writer and commentator.
Thank you very much. Tim Burrows, Content Director of Mumbrella, and Mark DiStefano, the man from BuzzFeed. Welcome to you all.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Now, before we go anywhere else, and there is so much to talk about in the brief time available to us, Mark, we just need to say a special good morning to you. And you were one of the heroes of yesterday's Writers' Festival action too. Have a listen to this.
Your outfit, the ABC, is running something online that the so-called investigative journalist from BuzzFeed, he's got sessions on your radio station outlining his wonderful skills as an investigative journalist. Well, wouldn't that just make Woodward and Bernstein proud?
Can we go?
Wouldn't they be really, really happy
the BuzzFeed
investigative journalism has produced that wonderful outcome in the public interest, deep, intellectual, and substantial?
There you go, Mark.
That is excellent. I'm going to have that on my tombstone.
Woodward
and Bernstein be proud.
Are you convinced, just to finally wrap this thing in a bow, that the real Mark Latham Twitter account is the real Mark Latham?
Let's just say that I wouldn't have published last Friday that it was him if I wasn't convinced back then. We had so much confirmation that we couldn't put on the record, but I will just say that the Melbourne Writers' Festival enabling Mark Latham and then apologising for what he then said. Some of the absolutely disgusting slights and sledges against female journalists in this country. The guy just needs some help, and I hope he gets it. But at this stage, we're very proud of our reporting, which led to this whole outcome.
We might leave Mr. Latham right there and move on to other matters. Tim Burrows, what are you making? Look, the government. We had a cabinet meeting last week, it being a sitting week, and there was, of course, the leaking of the thing that said there shouldn't be leaks. This and also the detail that there was not much on the agenda for that meeting. We have a cabinet meeting coming up this week. Actually, no, we don't, because, well, there's nothing you can possibly talk about in this country. How does that strike you? A government that doesn't even meet as a cabinet to talk about the things that confront us?
Look, I was trying to think about this, and I kept coming up with different sporting analogies. And the problem was, however I tried to think about it, it became more and more mixed metaphors.
Give us one.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's clear. It just feels like there's been this long period of treading water.
Nice.
But, and this is where I thought, I can't do both analogies in one because it would be a very strange sport. But the whole thing has felt like a boxing match between Labour and the Liberals for some time now, where no one is landing that knockout punch, and we're just going to get to the next election, and in the end, the winner's going to be on points rather than anyone having won it on policy or standing for something or any of those things. So it does just feel that we're in this weird. Here comes yet another comparison, Groundhog Day, where we just keep having the same conversation again and again and again, and nothing actually seems to change.
See, there we are, Sabine. We're in a game of water polo.
With boxing. That actually sounds like quite a lot of fun. I think I would
USA, Russia, water polo. I think everybody going the squirrel.
Yes. Well, I had a this whole lack of a cabinet meeting, I had an animal analogy as well. To me, it seems like a little turtle popping his head back in and sort of retreating into his shell. And it sort of strikes me as being a bit Rudd-esque, really. This centralisation of power to the extent that you don't even share it with the cabinet. And well, we know that didn't work out terribly well for Rudd, and I don't think it's going to work out terribly well for Abbott. I think he's coming to the end of his 6 months post the last sort of leadership mumblings.
Yes. Although thankfully good government has started at the beginning of that period.
So we're told. But I think he's coming to the end of the 6 months, and I think, you know, the key was that he needed to be more consultative with colleagues, and he needed to take on board more of the views of at the very least, his cabinet, one would assume. And that hasn't happened. So I think he's on borrowed time.
And Mark, that borrowed time might expire shortly after the result of the Canning by-election.
Yeah, just to be clear though, and I think that this was outlined by David Rowe in the Australian newspaper a couple of days ago in a very good sort of explanation of what was going on in Cabinet. One of the reasons why he did cancel Cabinet tomorrow is because he's going to be in the Torres Strait. So I think that it's fair to say that while we could probably make a bit more out of the fact that he ditched Cabinet for the week, flying everyone up to the Torres Strait would have cost a lot of money, and it probably would have been a bit of a hard logistical nightmare. But very clearly, over the course of the last week, with the way that all of his media notes are being leaked to journalists daily, there's a lot of silly buggers going on, and a lot of people just clearly are not happy with the way that things are going with Tony Abbott. And we had the same thing earlier this year with the revolt against Peter Credlin. You know, everything was being leaked to people to undermine her. And so we're seeing that. And you talk about the Canning by-election coming up. I'm really interested to see what the swing will be and how much the WA Liberals are willing to give Tony Abbott some slack, because that party out in the West has been underappreciated for a long time, and Julia Bishop is not in the mood at the moment. So I'm very interested to see that the Liberal Party in WA and the Liberal Party in Victoria are feeling a little bit underloved. So you're right. I think that we could see, if a disastrous result occurs, if this soldier of Tony Abbott's doesn't get up and convincingly, it's going to look very, very bad.
And Tim Burrows, Peter Van Onselen had an interesting crunching of the numbers here yesterday in the Australian. I mean, looking at the margins potentially in Canning, and even a victory may not be sufficient on that sort of reasoning to save Tony Abbott's job.
Yeah, it comes down to the comparisons with sort of previous governments at a similar time, because by-elections there's always a swing.
Well, the Aston one is, of course, the one that sort of changed the game for John Howard, was the interesting comparison.
But I think as well, voters are smart enough to use their vote tactically, and I think the voters of Canning are smart enough to use their vote tactically, and I think they will send a message to Abbott. I mean, we know he's incredibly unpopular. You look at every opinion poll that's been published, and he's incredibly unpopular. So, I mean, I don't see Canning going well for Abbott in any way.
Although, Tim, yesterday's stuff, the conference there in Perth, I mean, the PM looking very prime ministerial, but in very much a campaign mode as well. And it's full of confidence. This is the thing about Tony Abbott, that no matter how grim everything looks, no matter how stuck the polling seems to be, the man still exudes that sense of confidence and conviction.
And still, I mean, you say conviction, still lots of very, negative anti-Labour messages, that you sort of felt watching him sort of do his address yesterday. The moments that he was happiest and most comfortable were when he was on the attack of the other parties rather than promoting his own agenda.
Yeah, look, it's been a tough weekend, I suspect, this weekend in the Dyson Hayden household, as His Honour.
It's such a wonderful name. I do love the fact that these scandals with the Liberal Party seem to involve the most wonderfully named characters. It really took me back to Godwin Gretsch, and Dyson Hayden is sort of, I'm constructing a Dickensian novel based on these people.
Can a man really make that decision about himself?
I don't think he can. But I do think that the whole Royal Commission has been completely mismanaged. I mean, if you're going to have this Royal Commission into union corruption, let's do it properly. Let's actually get someone who's a bit of a showman, like they had in the other most recent Royal Commission.
The pink back one?
No, the one in New South Wales, other one in New South Wales.
With the showman that we've all forgotten. You
Yeah,
you've undermined your own argument.
I know, I have, but I was going somewhere with that. But yeah, it's not even in Melbourne, and a lot of the claims about union militancy relate to Melbourne, and yet Melbourne's been completely sidelined. It's
your sense of this process, Mark DiStefano. Can we have confidence even if he comes back and says, "Yep, I'm not biased"?
It kind of doesn't matter anymore, right? I mean, the damage has been done, and I think that Labor whipped up into a lather about this, and it gives Labor a chance. It gives Labor an attack, a line of attack in question time that they'll just continually bring up over and over and over again, because this is about discrediting Dyson Hayden's name so badly that no matter what he delivers next year in his report, no matter what it says about Bill Shorten or any of the other Labor people who have union pass, they will just basically say, well, look what happened. Dyson Hayden was a Liberal Party stooge from the beginning. And I think that if Hayden delivers his judgment next week where he doesn't recuse himself, they'll take it to the federal court, and this is going to be something that just keeps going on for the next couple of weeks.
I mean, Tim Burrows, in Labor's terms, and just quickly on a final point, I mean, it's probably not such a bad thing for them if he stays in charge.
Probably not. And the weird thing is this sort of judgment, what would the ordinary, reasonable person on the street think of it, is he's found himself, Dyson Hayden's found himself in this very tricky position where the best way of persuading the ordinary man of the street that he is independent-minded is by judging that he can't persuade the ordinary man on the street that he's independent-minded and recusing himself, which seems a bit sticky.
Very nicely put. I should say that Dyson Hayden, in fact, is the star of Sunday Profile here on our end. You'll hear that interview at 12:30 today. Well, one, of course, recorded in happier times. Look, thanks to our outsiders this morning, they have been Sabine Wolf, writer, commentator Tim Burrows, the man from Umbrella, Mark DiStefano, the Woodward of the Woodward and Bernstein team, that is.
And now we will end this broadcast and recommence for First Dog on the Moon.